Hmm. All right, so episode 187 of Fine Music is underway already. We're just joining it. Take it away, Jim.
Well, I was searching around. I saw, uh, I pulled up albums that are turning 50 years old in 2023. And if you want to make yourself feel ancient, look at this list. And
Yo.
when you remember exactly where you were when you last heard these albums, I mean, pretty easy. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Brain Salad Surgery, and I just picked 15 of the ones that I like personally, just personal taste and no particular order. The Kinks, Preservation Act 1, um, Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, Overnight Sensation, Golden Earring, Moontan with Radar Love, and that's a great album, by the way. I didn't realize that was the ninth album that they had released. I mean,
Yeah.
they've been around for a long time. Dark Side of the Moon, Aladdin Sane. What do we got here? Let me see if I can scroll down here. Okay, how do I do this? What happened? I've lost my scroller here. Wait. Hang on a sec.
Well,
Oh, there it is. There it is. I see it.
okay, you got it.
I think so. No.
On the edge, on the right edge of your screen, you don't see the little box. No,
Hold on a second.
I see it. It's right there.
There it is.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
see it. There we go. Okay. Aladdin Sane, Quadrophenia, Stevie Wonder Intervisions, Alice Cooper, $1 Billion Babies, Bruce Springsteen, Greetings from Asbury Park. He also released Wild and the Innocent and the East Street Shuffle.
Yeah.
Same year. Eagles, Led Zeppelin, Houses of the Holy, Little Feat, Dixie Chicken, Eagles Desperado, and Harry Nilsson, A Little Touch of Smilson in the Night. And you know what else I did was I looked through the contents of each disc, and I just listed the albums that I thought every cut on the album is worth listening to, is good. That would be Dark Side of the Moon. I have a great memory attached to Dark Side of the Moon. I was traveling with a friend. We were on the shores of Lake Erie on the way from Cleveland to parts east, and we were close to Erie, Pennsylvania, and the most radical thunderstorm that I have ever seen in my life hits. And we parked under a bridge, and we're kind of naive about this. We were so afraid that we were going to get struck by lightning that we kept our feet off of the car floor as if that was. And Dark Side of the Moon was playing on the 8-track tape player. Okay.
Wow.
Nothing like it. It was incredible. Other albums that I think the whole album is worth listening to is the Intervisions album by Stevie Wonder. He's Mr. Know-It-All, one of my favorite songs of all time. Quadrophenia, The Who, I've always had a personal preference for that. I've always loved that. Houses of the Holy, whole album. Eagles Desperado, whole album. Little Touch of Smilson, whole album, because I like Smilson. Nilsson, Moontan by Golden Earring, whole album. And some songs that didn't get any radio play because they're too long. One of them's like 9 minutes long. The other one was like 6:40 or 6:50. It's Candy's Going Bad, and I think Vanilla Queen is on that one too. Yeah, She Flies on Strange Wings is on Hearing Earring. So that's another one that's worth listening to. Hearing Earring. Preservation Act 1, whole album. Abandoned Luncheonette, Hall & Oates, kind of an odd pick, but I like that album. I mean, I hadn't heard them ever, and that was their second album that they released. I like the whole album. Same with Overnight Sensation and Brain Salad Surgery. So, it's not very common that you have an album where every cut, good, but that's just personal preference, So some people are a little bit more discriminating, but what the heck? I have no standards sometimes. No?
Well, it's a very good list. Some of them I haven't really dug that deep into. Obviously, the Golden Earring I haven't, but
there are a lot more albums that are turning 50 years old this year. Aerosmith, Queen. I'm trying to think of some other ones right off the top of my head. Dr. John, The Night Tripper, Right Place in the Right Place.
1973 is a good year in my mind because 3 of my absolute favorite albums are released in 73, and one is Aladdin Sane, which you've got.
The piano solo on Aladdin Sane is awesome. I think that's one of my favorite pieces of music of all time.
Yeah. Also from 73, personally for me, is Raw Power by Iggy and the Stooges.
That and then the New York Dolls album came out that year too.
And the Oyster Cult's Tyranny and Mutation was 73.
Lou Reed, Berlin. Lou Reed's
hard
Berlin.
rock and guitar. But also for you, Don, you should check out, I saw a video online by this guy named Andy Edwards, who claimed that 73 was the peak year of progressive rock.
Yes album. There's a couple of Yes albums that were released in 73 too.
There was. Well, I think Tales of Topographic Oceans was 73.
Right.
Dark Side of the Moon. There's there are a couple of Crimson albums. What else would he citing? But he was pointing at Dark Side of the Moon as like the absolute peak of progressive rock.
And then there's at the same time there's Marvin Gaye, you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
What's going on? I think that came out that year too. So it's a limited list, obviously.
Yeah.
You know?
No, but I guess my point is that when I don't know, when I sit down to think of the great years in rock history, it's like 1957, 1967, 1977, but 73 was definitely up there.
73 is good, huh?
Yeah, it kind of slips under the radar a little bit because it was more, well, like, okay, 57, 67, and 77 were explosions of something new. Rock and roll, psychedelic rock, punk.
Right. But what year did Sgt. Pepper come out?
That was 67.
That's what I thought.
But then if you look at like 63 and 73, well, 63 was the Beatles coming out.
Right.
What 73 was, I think, was a maturing.
It's a good year.
Yeah, it was a good
Roger
year.
Feeney is a great album. I mean, it was a double album, 4 sides. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah, and I personally would put that at the Who's peak.
Yeah, me too.
They didn't. I mean, they produced some decent albums after that, but
not like that.
You know, and then going back a year to 72 for the Stones, Exile on Main Street was their peak.
Goat's Head Soup, I think, came out in 73.
Yeah, it came out in 73, which it's okay. It's just
that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Angie's on that album, isn't it?
Yeah, Angie's on that album. I mean, it's actually, I guess, coming after Exile on Main Street, it basically got trashed in public opinion.
Yeah.
But it does have a lot of good stuff on it.
Yeah. So that's my 87.
Yeah.
Jim.
Yeah.
Could you scroll back to the bottom of the list, sir?
Sure. Let's do that.
Thank you.
I'm a big Little Feat fan. I've always loved Little Feat too, so that's why Dixie Chicken. I put Dixie Chicken on there.
Yeah.
We'll forgive you on the spelling mistake on Led Zeppelin.
Oh yeah. Hey, thank you. Thank you. You know, I just made this up this morning. I did it in a hurry. At least I didn't put Joni Mitchell. At least I didn't put Joni Mitchell in this list, you know, and misspell her name too.
I may be a younger lad, but I did research my distant past. And I found that I did most of my record buying in my life. The one year that I did buy the most records was 1976, when I was a junior in high school. That doesn't seem to be too unusual.
Yeah.
And 1973, it looks like you covered just about everything, but I will add, I had this list of 20 favorite albums from 1973 that I had put together about a month ago, because there's another channel on YouTube that is one of the other 1,000 music channels. And the guy doing it, his name is Canadian Stud Muffin. So he went through the years, but he doesn't like to go linearly. And he doesn't necessarily do all the years. So that's pretty good, actually. So I'll also add, hopefully, another hour to this episode by naming 10 more bands that you didn't name.
Oh, please.
That's my challenge.
Go for it.
Or I could just make it another episode, but then I would lose the episode I had planned for today. So I'm just going to tack it on here.
Cool.
See what happens. Okay, so did you mention 10cc's debut album, 1973? Yeah.
Was that is that the one with Not in Love on it?
No, that's
Before that,
75.
it's the one with Second Sitting for the Last Supper. No, that's the
No,
75
that's
too.
original soundtrack 1975, but
We're the worst band in the world.
no, that's the second album,
Okay.
74, sheet music.
We're getting there.
Yeah. You don't remember a little ditty called Rubber Bullets?
I do.
All right.
Went to the
That's
party at the
original.
local county jail.
There you go. Now you got it. Whoa, Donna, that song.
Oh, Donna, yeah. You make me stand up, you make me sit down.
Yeah, you know it. Okay, you passed the test. There was this little known guy who formed his own band called Wings. He had an album called Band on the Run, came out that year, 1973.
Yep.
I heard it sold a few records. There's another prog band, yeah, Genesis, selling England by the
That's
pound,
right.
1973.
Oh, right.
Some guy who just retired had an album called Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
Oh yeah. That's a great album. That's a great.
John. One of my personal favorites that was introduced to me by a neighbor who lived down the street was The Captain and Me, which was the Doobie Brothers.
Doobie Brothers, that's right.
Right, Long Train Running. That was a very big thing for us 13-year-olds. Oh yeah, Long Train Running. We were digging it. Free actually reunited in 73 and had an album called Heartbreaker, which is just phenomenal. But did I know it back then? No, not at all. Nor did I know about Gentle Giant's one non-American release, which in my opinion is their best album. It's called In a Glass House. It is by far my favorite Gentle Giant album. And speaking of guys from obscure bands, there's an album called Living in the Material World.
Oh, that guy.
That guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, not him again. You heard of him? On his 75 album Extra Texture, when you open
Harrison
up the
Ford.
Yeah, you're on the right track. You're on the right track. You open up the inner sleeve for the album, right? It holds the record and it says, "Oh, not him again," in one word.
That's a real.
But that's George Harrison, yeah. And then another band that became one of my favorites that I knew nothing about in 1973 was Humble Pie, and they had a double record called Eat It in 1973.
Remember that too.
Yeah.
One of my all-time favorite albums. Julius Brockington. Has anyone ever heard of Julius Brockington? Guess not. But he's in one of our previous episodes because I talked about his perfect album, The United Chair, which is one of the most gorgeous funky soul records you'll ever hear. Instrumental, funky soul, jazz records you'll ever hear. And the reason you don't know more about it is because after he did that album, well, actually, it was his second album. His first album was nothing but jazz covers of pop hits. So that's always a disastrous idea. So then he did his original record, The United Chair, which was gorgeous. And then after that, he got Religion. So he did nothing but gospel music after that. So that's why you didn't hear about him. Hey, here's one that was a big favorite of my sister's. She was 12, I was 13. Hers, the album's called Wild and Peaceful. Like Kool and the Gang.
Oh
my God, where is your hipness?
Parliament Funkadelic came out with an album that year too, but I can't remember the name of it.
Ooh, that's before my time. Yeah. Here's another band you might have heard. They did a self-titled album. Well, it was not completely self-titled. The album was just called Mott.
Oh yeah.
Mott the Hoople.
Hoople guy.
Yeah. Did you mention Renaissance?
No.
No, they had one of their greatest
the
albums.
ones on the list that
Ashes Are Burning, 1973. Rick Wakeman, Six Wives of Henry VIII. And I think Chicago 6, their most commercial, fully, a bunch of songs album, their first all songs album. No jams. And finally, Jethro Tull. Passion Play.
Right.
My favorite Jethro Tull album. This coming from a guy who was only 13 in 1973.
I think I just included the ones where I had 8-track tapes.
Yeah, unfortunately, you'd have to break it up. But actually, they were all made for breaking up. They really were. I mean,
Well, except for Thick as a Brick.
even Thick as a Brick, it's got 10 parts.
Well,
Go check it out.
it was annoying to hear Dark Side of the Moon on an 8-track tape, I have to say.
Now, wait to hear the new version Roger Waters is making.
Is it going to make another version of
He's
that?
making a new version of Dark Side of the Moon without
nice.
the band, just him.
Wow.
We'll see how that goes. And now, thank you for everyone who stayed awake during this hour-long episode, our first hour-long episode. And you still have to do my self-indulgence.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Already
go.
had a little. So let me cut off the recording. Oof.